everyone, I'm Teresa, and welcome to my channel. I want to thank everyone who is a recent subscriber. I was finally able to hit 50 subscribers, and now I'm over that. So of course the next hurdle is to 100 subscribers, but we'll talk more about that as we get a little closer. Please ignore the background sounds because my kids just got home from school, and this filming of my introduction is a little later in the day than normal. But we've got a lot of great things for you today. We're going to be doing crafts that were inspired by things from Hobby Lobby. So I hope that you're getting the Hobby Lobby vibe by everything that I've made here. I've got 4 different DIYs for you today, and they're all Christmas, of course. Right now I'm in full Christmas crafting mode, so I hope that that is what you're looking for because that is what I made. So take a look at everything that I've got coming up. I've got some more great Christmas things coming along the way, and I'll probably throw in a couple of non-Christmas related crafting here and there as well. So thanks again for coming back and checking everything out. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and let me know if you're new here. I'd love to know a little bit about you and what kind of videos you'd be interested in seeing. So thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Alright, for our first projects, we are going to start off with this Friends sign. It's roughly about a 13 by 13 sign. I did get it from Goodwill for $3.99, and we're going to paint over everything with this Whispering Wheat from Folk Art. And it did do 3 coats. And after that dried, each coat individually dried, I'm going in with the Folk Art Antique Wax, and I do end up doing 2 coats of this, and you'll see why here in just a minute. So I started off using the foam brush, and I wasn't really liking the way it was working for me, so instead I went in with a paintbrush, kind of laid down a couple of spots, and then blended it out with the foam brush. I don't know if this helped things, hurt things, if it helped me get the kind of the end result I ended up getting. I just felt like when I was doing it with just the brush, it seemed like it wasn't, getting enough of it to spread out. Too much of it was really laying right there. And to be completely honest, when I was doing this, I was just, I don't know, I was kind of disappointed. I wasn't real happy with the way it was turning out. And I was thinking I was going to have to paint over it, but I kind of stuck with it. I was like, well, let's just see where this goes. And so, like I said, I'm just kind of going in with the paintbrush and then going in with the foam brush after. And one thing I will say, when you're doing this, try and keep it in the same direction. Like basically, if you were trying to get like a wood grain going up and down or left to right or right to left or whatever, try to keep it the same way. Otherwise, you're going to end up having it look very streaky. I'll admit, when you're looking at it right now, it looks crazy streaky. So you'll see here in a minute, it needed more than 1 coat to make it give a more wood-like appearance. So do not be alarmed. You'll see here in a minute. So now that it is, here we go. Now we're on to coat number 2. I am going in with a small foam brush. I felt like it kind of moved a little bit better now that it had a base coat to go off of. And I'm going in basically these little lines because I'm trying to think like what would it look like if it was wood. It would be more like planks unless you had one big piece of wood, I guess. So I'm just kind of going through like that, and as I'm doing this, I'm like super excited because it looks way better than I thought it was going to. And it's nice because when I was doing the first coat with the chalk paint, it wasn't very neat. So I was worried on the first time around that that's why it gave me such a patchy looking, result. But now I'm thinking like, hey, that fact that I wasn't very neat with the with the chalk paint is why it gave me more of a wood look. I mean, I wouldn't look at this and say that's not wood. I mean, it might not be the best quality wood, but I would not look at it and say it was a $4 sign from Goodwill. So once you're doing this, you're just going to kind of go through, and I would definitely say to keep, trying to make sure that you're going to keep it from leaving any big lines. So once I let it dry, I kind of decided I needed to go in and whitewash it. This is called sheepskin. It is from Folk Art. I go in with water, and to be honest, it's probably too much water. And I really water it down. These chalk paints are pretty thick, so again, I definitely think I had too much water. I'm pretty happy with the way it worked. So I did the sheepskin, and then I actually also did some whispering wheat, because I thought it was a little bit too light. I definitely didn't want to do a white, and of course I splattered all over my, sign. Because who doesn't end up doing something they absolutely love and then splattering something on it afterwards? I swear, it feels like it happens all the time. Never when you feel like you messed up on something, though. Have you ever noticed that? Alright, so I'm going to go in with a larger foam brush, and I'm just going to start putting it down. One thing that you'll notice at the very beginning there, it definitely was starting to kind of give it like a little bit of a dots, like it wasn't being absorbed, because it is pretty waxy. I mean, it is a wax. So once you kind of get it in there and start working it, what it's doing, I think, is pulling at that wax. It's really just starting to get into it, and I just like that it lightened it up just a little bit. I thought it was just a little bit too dark. I was kind of hoping it was going to go a little bit lighter, give it more of that milky whitewashed cast, but I end up liking it enough that I didn't want to mess with it, and I didn't really want to try my hand at making it any lighter, for the sake of, I was afraid that I was gonna end up ruining it. And one thing I will say, this sign is more like a composite of something, and I would imagine if it got really wet, it would probably bubble up. So that's why I decided I was good with just the one time around. So now you'll see that it is done, and I do need to go in to do the sides. I go in with that Waverly Truffle. It's just a dark brown paint, chalk paint, and I just go ahead and go around the whole sign doing the edges. And there it is. It's so pretty, and you're ready for some vinyl. So I decide to stay with the same quote. It's the most wonderful time of the year. And of course, I go through my same woes of trying to place vinyl. I try rulers, I try lines. I can never get it to feel like it's in the right spot. So what I do end up doing is I end up taping a piece of ribbon to the back side to try to give myself more of a straight line to go off of. I think this might become my new favorite method, because I felt like I at least got a straight line. And I do check it with a ruler and then just readjust it fairly easily enough. I got that little thing at the Dollar Tree. I tell you what, man, if you find one of those, they're really handy to have if you do crafts. So I go ahead and line it up as best I can, and I figure at this point, even if it's not perfect, it's going to be good enough, because I'm telling you, I can't cut a straight line, I can't draw a straight line, and obviously I can't lay vinyl in a straight line. So I lay it down and go ahead and start varnishing it on. Something to be warned, if you do use this antique wax, the vinyl does not stick to it as well initially. Like right now, it's a little bit hard to place. I thought maybe it would stick a little bit better, which it is. It's definitely better than it is when I'm doing it on just the antique wax, but that's because of that whitewash painting thing that I did. That helped quite a bit. So just be forewarned, if you're placing vinyl on it, the vinyl doesn't stick as well. I didn't want to mess with it with like a coat of Mod Podge, because I was afraid I was going to end up with some weird cast to it, and I really love the way it turned out. So I just decided I was just going to have to work with the vinyl. The way it ended up working out was fine, so I was pretty happy with it. So next, I'm going to go ahead and place down some snowflakes. I will link where I found this cut file. It was for free, which is always nice when you don't have to pay to get a cut file if you have a Cricut. And so I'll have that linked below, and I'm just kind of placing them wherever seems to make the most sense. Obviously, in the original like inspiration, they weren't vinyl. They were like engraved into the sign. So obviously, I wasn't going to be able to do that. I mean, I'm crafty. I am not artsy. So I'm just going to place those down, and I did have a little bit of trouble with some of the vinyl pieces, just like I did before. I noticed that one thing I think helps a lot if you go over and really just press down with your fingers as opposed to just using the varnishing tool. I think that helps a lot. I don't know if it's like the heat from your fingers that you're generating when you're rubbing on the vinyl, or what it is, but it seems to help. So I'm going to just get all of those placed in there. And just to note one thing, I'll list down below the font that I used on this. One thing I will say, I got it from DeFont. So here it is compared to my inspiration. I'm really happy with it. So next we're going to do this little Days Till Christmas truck. Just keep in mind, this is a strictly a inspiration, because it's not going to end up looking really anything like that. It's really, in concept, is similar, but the way it actually ends up looking is not. I didn't care for like that gray glittery thing, I think is what it said online it was. So first we're going to just take apart our truck. I'm going to try to get rid of all of that glitter. I go in with like the sandpaper, the Goo Gone, the whole thing. So once we finally get rid of it all, we're just going to start popping off all of the other little pieces. You'll notice when you buy this red truck that those pieces, they don't always sit exactly where they should sit. So I'm just going to pop them all off, remove any excess adhesive glue stuff that you got on there, and just kind of clean it up. And I'm going to just sand off, like I said, any of that extra adhesive. And I'm going to go ahead and go in and paint it. This is Crimson from Waverly that I'm going to paint the red truck. You could really leave it if you wanted to. It just kind of depends on how rustic and worn and old you want your truck to look. So I am going to go back later and kind of give it a more of a worn look, but just so you know, I do think you could probably get away with not doing it. Just depends on your truck, on your preference, really. So I'll give it a good coat going around on all of the edges. You're going to try to avoid like the tire area. I mean, you are going to be putting those little fenders, I think they are, back on it. So just to keep that in mind when you're doing it. Oh, I'm so sorry for yawning. It is a lot later than it usually is for me at this point. Today's been a busy day and I did not get as much done. And eventually, someday, I will get all of my filming done ahead of time instead of the last night. So once we're all done with that, I'm going to go ahead and go in and paint all of my extra little pieces. And again, making sure you do the rim of it, just because that rim is just going to be brown like the cardboard. So I think it gives it a lot more of a polished, finished look. I mean, just because your sign has to be from the dollar store doesn't mean it has to not look like it's finished. I wish I could paint this fast. Does anybody else feel like that? So I do. I wish I could paint this fast. So we're going to just go ahead and go in, and I'm going to paint all of those fenders too. One thing I thought would be kind of cool, I don't know, I was looking at it and I almost thought about doing it, but saved for the fact that it was supposed to be like my Hobby Lobby inspiration. I thought almost about making them like a different color. I don't know if I would do them black. I don't know if I kind of thought maybe I'd do them silver, but I just I looked it up online, like this old red truck, to see what it would be like more, in real life, and it was usually just all red. So I guess that kind of went away from my idea. So now we're going to take apart that little tree. We're going to take off that berry garland, and just be forewarned, they didn't just glue it down. There's also some teeny tiny little pins. I wouldn't even call them nails. They're like little pins. So you're going to go ahead and go in. I'm going to get rid of all of the glitter that is on that snow covered part of the tree. And I did that, I just went in straight with the Goo Gone to kind of get rid of that. And we're going to go in with the Waverly in Moss. Oh, and then we're also going to use the ink. Apparently I skipped over the tree. Oh yes, that's right, because I covered the tree just completely with Waverly Moss. And now I'm just going to go in with the ink, and I'm going to just fill in, paint the tires. You could skip it if you think it looks like it is black enough. If you'll notice there on the bottom part, I felt like it was definitely had a spot that was just red, so that wasn't quite right to me. And I'm going to try to avoid getting into that hubcap area as best I can. And you'll just go in and I don't know if you can tell, I was talking to my daughter at this point, trying to convince her to go to bed, which I feel like is a battle every night. It seems like every night it's a battle of getting her to go to bed. So once you've gotten it all pretty much filled in, I like to do kind of the perimeter first. And now I'm going to go back in with that ink from Waverly and give my tree a little bit of a shadow look. And you'll notice here in a second I get a little too heavy-handed with it, and I'll show you how to fix that. So I'm also going to go in with the Waverly in Truffle to give it just a little bit more depth. And oh, see, there's the nice big blob brown, but that's okay. We will fix it. So I'll go back over it with the Waverly moss just to kind of start to try to blend it in a little bit. I think it ends up looking okay. It doesn't look like there's a big black spot. And I think I ended up doing it twice. I don't know how I do these things. I think it's probably just because I was lazy and I didn't feel like getting a different brush. So I do paint the base part here on it where it's like the tree stump. And I'm not really sure why I did it, because I'm pretty sure I end up covering the entire thing. But at this point I wasn't entirely sure where I was going to put my tree, so I just figured I'd cover it no matter where it was going to go. So I'll basically just kind of keep layering on that moss color to try and cover up my little mistake. And you are going to want to try to go in and get all of the edges with the green, just so you can make sure that it's not, it doesn't look like it's unfinished. Next we're going to go in with that antique wax, and this time we're just going to get our truck to kind of get a little more worn looking. And I do a lot of it around like the perimeter of it, and then I'm going to go in and also kind of do some on the body too. I'm just kind of thinking like, hey, if this old, beat up truck, it wouldn't just have, worn areas on the tops and sides and stuff. It would be throughout the cab of the truck too. And I'm going to go in and do the fenders. And please let me know, somebody, if this is not a fender, if this is something else, let me know so that I don't continue to call it the wrong thing. And then we'll go ahead and do it onto that top part too. And we're going to go in with this Parisian gray color from Folk Art. I fill in the little hubcap area. Well, I probably could have skipped this, because at first I was thinking I was going to do this gray color because I wasn't really sure. I have one of those silver paint pens, but I was not sure if I could find where I had it. I do end up finding it, and you'll see that in a few minutes that I go in and cover that up. But once I did that, I decide that I want to give it a little bit more color to some other areas. So I was thinking sometime today I'll finish this hubcap. So I'm gonna go in with my white. This is just an old white chalk paint. It's way more thick than it should probably be, and I am gonna go in and just give a little bit of a dusting onto my tree. And I'm thinking like, oh, I'll go a little heavier on the side that is going to be, facing, I think, upward. That way it's kind of more of where the snow would have fallen. And then, see, there's my silver paint pen. It's a crafter square thing. It is pretty nice. And I'm just going to go in, again, I just kind of go into the perimeter first. And then I will fill in those rims with that paint pen. I'll do kind of like almost like 2 coats. That way it's really nice and covered. Once we've given everything a little bit of a chance to dry, we're just going to go in with our hot glue, and we're going to glue back down all of those pieces. And I did go in a little bit. You'll notice up on the top side, I went in with that paint pen just to give it a little bit of a silvery look. The thought in my mind was that it would be kind of like the steel that's underneath the truck, but it didn't really look like that. So once everything's glued back on, I'm going to do that white paint, almost like you're getting a dusting of snow all over the place. And then again, I go in with the silver. I want to give it like a snow, like a little bit of a glistening look to it. I don't really know if it looks like that. And then I go in with that Parisian gray too to give it almost like a different, like older snow. At least it's not yellow snow, right? I don't know. I'm not from the north, so I I guess I've seen snow, but I guess I'm guessing a little bit about snow. So, like I said, I don't know why I ended up doing the base of the tree when I put it in there. So next we're going to color these little boxes. These are from Hobby Lobby. They're supposed to be like presents, but they're ornaments, and I basically just took apart the part that had the hanger part and then painted them black by accident, decided I didn't like it, and then painted them red. And we will go ahead and put down our decal, just a white Days Till Christmas sign, and it's just printed it out on my Cricut. And I was thinking about writing it, it's just my handwriting is not the best. So I decided just it would be better if I just did it on the Cricut. And you'll just peel it away. This font has much skinnier letters, so they don't come off quite as easily. Say if it was like a thicker font, then it would be a little bit easier. So once those red boxes have dried up a little bit, we're going to go over it with the white to give it that snowed on effect. If you are able to find those wood solid boxes from Dollar Tree, go ahead and get those. I think those would work really nicely. It's just this is what I could find, so this is kind of what I went with. I felt like I wanted them to be a little bit smaller too, but not so small that they're the little tiny wood blocks. If you are able to find like the foam dice, those would be a good option too. So I'm going to number them because these are going to serve as like our countdown. And another really cute idea would have been if you have these boxes sitting up in like the bed of the truck. I thought about that after the fact, after I put my tree in. I was like, oh, I could have put those little boxes up there. But we're trying to go with our, Hobby Lobby inspiration. So just keep that in mind, if you're thinking about doing this, those boxes sitting up in the bed of the truck, you could put one of the little crates upside down to have them sit on. It would be so cute. So I do end up doing these smaller numbers, mostly because I didn't feel like getting another piece of vinyl out to make them bigger, but I do kind of come up with an idea for it. You'll see in a minute how I kind of make it work. See, I'm going to take this twine. This is the same jute twine that you'll see in a few minutes on the next craft. Or maybe not the next one. Sorry, the last one. And I'm going to just hot glue down a little bow and wrap it around. I was like thinking, like, should I wrap it like a present? Should I wrap it like, I don't know. So I end up just wrapping it around just the one part, and I'm going to glue down this knot. And I'm going to do that on both of them, and you'll see in a minute I'm going to kind of like tie them together. Like these are almost like these are being dragged behind the truck. I will cut down one side and tuck it under and leave the other side with a tail to tie to the other box. And I picked numbers kind of at random. If you have any particular numbers that are significant to you, you could go with that. I just decided I was going to pick those ones for no real good reason. After I did it, I was like, oh, I probably should have done like 2 and 5 to say it's like 25 days before Christmas. That would have been, the first day of the countdown. But I did not do that. So, no worries though. We're going to make everything kind of work out. I'm going to do, here I am going to actually go ahead and tie them together. I pick the one end I left on the first box to use as a spot to tie it together, and just trim off the excess. And that other one, the other side of the box, I am just going to hot glue that to the back of our truck. I left it a lot longer than I needed to. So here you go, you're just going to do a nice big glob of glue, and this little project will be finished. I did, however, forget to put anything on the back to hold it up. So here you see it all finished compared to our inspiration. So next we're going to do this macrame kind of tree. So I went ahead first and with that paint the Whispering Wheat to paint that base. That's just a scrap piece of wood that I have from another project. And this is my very technical way of cutting down my dowels. This is just a small dowel that is from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just basically scoring it, really deep scoring it with my X-Acto knife, and then I break it apart and cut and clean up the side. And these are, I don't believe that these particular ones are from the Dollar Tree, but the Dollar Tree carries them. These are just some wooden skewers that I'm going to make my tree for. The form of the tree is going to be made out of these. So I'm just going to glue the bottom part of it down to that half dowel on each side. And one thing you could do, just depends on what you want to do, you'll see at the end I do end up gluing down that entire dowel down to the base. In the inspiration picture it does have a long I don't even know what to call it, I guess a trunk, a long like dowel sized trunk that comes off of it at the bottom. So if you wanted to be a little bit more like that inspiration, instead of having this middle piece go you could actually have it that that base dowel kind of start higher up, if that makes any sense. I do put a piece of glue in at the top just to kind of hold it together a little bit. I do the twine all the way around on the base part, and then I'm going to start weaving it through. Once you've gotten the pattern down of the weaving part, it's not too hard. I do have it here. I'm going to slow it down a little bit so you can kind of get an idea. I'll put glue kind of every so often, but you're going to do over, under, over, under, over, under, and so on. So you'll do, see, you're going to go ahead like that last piece that I started with, that one was over. So I'm going to put that underneath the middle dowel, and then I'm going to pull it up over the next part of the tree, and then the next one is going to go over that part of the tree and under the next part of the tree, and it's going to go on like this. See, that one went under, so I'm going to weave it under, weave it back over that way and go under and over. And I probably messed up the pattern a couple of times, but you'll kind of just figure out what you think is going to work the best for you. I also tried at one point to wind that twine up through on like another piece of the dowel. That helped, kind of almost like you're sewing at that point then. And this is up towards the top. Obviously you can see I've done quite a bit of it. This, be forewarned, this is not a fast craft. So do this, and it's kind of it's a little therapeutic. I mean, it helps you kind of, if you really like things that require a lot of focus, this is one of those things. This isn't something you can just do and not paying any attention to. But I do finish it off here in a minute, and what I will do, I do trim off that top part of the tree just because it was a little too high up for the embellishment that I put at the top. So just keep that in mind. I would definitely recommend trimming it down before you start. Felt like it was a lot harder trying to trim it down after the fact. And I do decide on the snowflakes. You could do those little gold stars. They are from the Dollar Tree, so just to think about that. It depends if you want a little pop of color or not. I wanted to keep it all natural. That is kind of our inspiration picture, was much more like that. It was a star, I believe, but it doesn't have to be, these aren't like a whole completely a dupe. This is just where I got the inspiration from it. So here I am. I just put a nice good amount of hot glue on the base and glue it down to our little piece of scrap wood. And I feel like I could kind of see the hot glue a little bit too much, so I'm going to take just a piece of twine and put it in, into that bottom part where I made that, that little seam with the glue of putting it down on the base. And I kind of gave it just a little bit of something to finish it off. One thing that would be really cute too is if you have any twine that is like a color to it. Like I have some that I just don't have very much. That's like a red and a twine color. It's really, really cute, really fun. I don't know if you saw there my pajama pants that I was just getting ready for bed before that. So there it is, all finished up compared to our inspiration. So our very last one is going to be this cute little snowman. We are going to make him out of a tennis ball and one of those little styrofoam balls. I do end up spray painting the tennis ball white because I was afraid that twine would kind of come through. This particular twine is from Walmart, and if I can find it, I will link it below. It's a lot thicker than the one from Dollar Tree, and if you'd seen one of my previous videos that I did with the tree with the twine, this is the stuff that would be much better for that kind of project, as well as this project. So I just kind of keep going I end up doing a lot of hot glue. I do it around pretty much everywhere where that twine's going to go. I just figure since it's rounded, I was thinking it wasn't going to hold up very well. So on the base, I do finish off kind of one side of it and leave the other side a little opening spot so that little styrofoam one would fit through. So then on the styrofoam one, I felt like this particular one was a lot easier to put the twine around. And I'll just keep going until I've gotten all woven around. And by the end, I will finish it off and just keep kind of winding it in there. And be careful, the hot glue is really hot when you get it on your fingers. I think I did it at least 2 or 3 times. I feel like it needed a base, so I just have one of those little wood slices. I think they came from Hobby Lobby. Is it cheating if I use stuff from Hobby Lobby to make a Hobby Lobby inspired stuff? And then I'm going to use this little wooden bead, and I'm going to use this little piece of that berry garland that was on our Christmas tree from the red truck. And these are going to end up being his earmuffs, and I'm going to use this little piece of Dollar Tree ribbon for his scarf. I don't really know if it's a he or a she, but I didn't make hair, so I'm going to guess this is a snowman. And after I had put the earmuffs on, I kind of wish I had done a hat instead. So just think about that. If you want to do a hat, if you want to do earmuffs, I was trying to keep with my inspiration, but the hat would have been really cute too. I do glue down the ribbon so that it'll kind of stay in place. And then I was kind of playing with the idea of covering those beads, but I decided I liked that natural wood. Our inspiration picture, they do have a patterned, it's almost looked like one of those like buttons that are just like a really fancy jacket button. And then the arms are just a couple of pieces off some random sprig that I have that I kind of thought like, oh, this works out perfectly. And I'm going to just use this little piece from the like felt snowman kit. I used the white felt, so I was like, well, I may as well use this orange felt. I don't have any orange felt to make his nose. So I just cut it out into kind of like a triangle, and I do 2 pieces to make it a little bit thicker, and I'll just glue those 2 together. And once they're glued together, I'm just going to go ahead and put a little bit of glue on them and glue them to our little twine snowman. And I'll have to be honest, I think his nose is just adorable. So here's funny. I'm like dead set, and I thought I edited this out. I was like dead set on using felt for his eyes or doing something with his eyes. And my son was so funny. He was sitting off on the other side of the room. He's like, why don't you just paint the eyes on? I was like, oh, yes. That would probably be easiest, wouldn't it? So I go in with the Waverly ink paint and just give him 2 little dots. And he needs a mouth, so I'm just going to paint a little piece of twine and give him a little smiling mouth, and I'm going to add the hot glue directly to the twine. And so ever so carefully, feel like I'm making some miniature little snack foods like you see on Facebook sometimes. And I'm just going to place that on there ever so gently. And I'll probably go in with a little bit of extra hot glue just to kind of try to keep it, sitting the way it's supposed to. And I felt like I needed a little dab of that black paint because just depending on where that glue ended up and how it got put on there, it might not be where it's supposed to be. So you can kind of see it moved a little bit, so I just put another dab of glue and just move it back into place. This little happy snowman who's made out of a tennis ball and twine. And yep, see, I'll just touch up his smile a little bit. So he is, otherwise, I think he is pretty much finished. He's super cute. Yep, super cute little snowman. And there he is. And the inspiration, he doesn't exactly look like it, but I thought it was pretty cute. And so here is all of it. I had a lot of fun doing this. I hope that you had fun watching it. And let me know if you recreate anything or if there's anything in particular that you guys would like to see. And I will see you next time. And I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend and enjoys their time with their family coming up for Halloween if you celebrate it. Thanks again.